Maybe you've been eyeing your dream house and it's a big upgrade from the house that you're in now. Or maybe it's your first house. You just want to know, can I afford it? I'm going to show you some detailed calculations and some spreadsheet math to show you how you can figure this out. So if you have a professional degree, some people will be able to access something called a doctor mortgage when they buy their big dream house. Some people will not have access to this. That's okay. Let's take a look at the math. So purchase price, let's just pretend you're looking at a house that's 1.2 million. Let's say that you are, let's just pretend for a moment you're two dentists married to each other, each of you is making 250,000 a year. Down payment. If you have access to doctor mortgages, that can be less than 20% pretty easily. Some people can get access to lower down payment mortgages even without access to a doctor mortgage. But let's just say that you find a 10% down payment. Mortgage interest rate, let's say it's 6.5, and let's say you're doing a 32%, 30-year term, and let's say you're in a combined tax bracket that's, let's just say it's quite high. Can you itemize mortgage interest? Let's say you are. Do you have any other mortgage debt? This is relevant because you can deduct interest in up to $750K of mortgage principal, but if you have a different mortgage that you're already deducting the interest on, that you have to take that into account. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, home maintenance. These numbers always depend. I'll zoom in a little bit. These numbers always depend on the details of your individual location of what real estate market you're in, right? Some places, property tax is brutal, like in New Jersey. Some places it's not that bad. So that's a key part of the analysis. Home maintenance, that is often a good way to think about this is how old is the house? Ultimately, older houses typically have a lot more maintenance, a lot more things go wrong with them. There could be asbestos you have to get removed. There could be lead paint. There could be, a pipe situation where the pipes are old and corroded. I mean, it really depends on what the age of your house is. If you're looking at a 2000s house, probably things are mostly going to be okay. There's probably going to be some surprises. If you're looking at a 60s or 70s house, especially one where somebody's been in the home for a long time, back the truck up, you're probably going to have some big maintenance expenses. A lot of times these expenses are heavily front-loaded too, so just something to think about when you're factoring that into your budget. Now, if you put in these numbers, if you look at, and now this is kind of an interesting thing to put in, what are your big monthly non-housing fixed expenses? So let's say you've got kids in daycare. Let's say that you have car payments. Let's say you've got student loan payments. So you might put in, a number like $10,000 a month just to kind of get an idea of what the housing cost would be with these other fixed expenses. So let's say you put in all this math. You're going to calculate what your mortgage payment would be. You can get that a lot of places. A lot of people would give you what your mortgage payment is, but a lot of people are not going to be giving you the number including taxes, insurance, any HOA, and maintenance expenses. So that's like the true monthly number you need to be thinking about right here, the all-in number. Now you've got your mortgage amount. Some of that's deductible on the interest, some of it's not. And you can look at what your payments would be over the course of 30 years. But these are the numbers here that matter the most. So housing expense is percent of income, 22%. So if that's less than 35, you're probably in a good situation. Total housing expense is a percent of income after adjusting for the mortgage interest deduction. So that is relevant, right? Because the true expense after accounting for the fact that some of your mortgage interest is deductible, that's the number that you'd really care about because that's the number that you're really losing. Now, what's going on here, and the reason why this calculator says maybe, is if you're looking at total fixed expenses as a percent of your income, this is spitting out a number that says 42%. Now, that is kind of high. Why is that kind of high? Because you want to have a lot of extra money in your budget every month. You don't want to be house poor. That's a very quick way to end the month stressed out, to not have a lot of money left over for other things. You don't want your house to be a prison. You want it to be a really fun place that you build memories in, right? And when you're looking at 42% of your gross income going to fixed expenses, think about it like this. If you make the $500,000, let's say you're netting, something like $350 after taxes. So put in $350, and then let's say you subtract the $10,000 a month other fixed expenses that we've accounted for here, and let's say you're subtracting these expenses, which is the mortgage and the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So if you have $120K left over, you might say, "Oh, that's great. That's really plenty." But this is the number $10,000 a month that you need to handle savings, investing. You might need to put money out of this into retirement. You might want to cover your wants and vacations and going out to eat and just, all of the miscellaneous expenses, kids activities, all the miscellaneous expenses that you just don't think about when you are, coming up with a budget. So that's why if you're, not dealing with a ton of big fixed expenses and most of your expenses are variable expenses, then buying a house like this with a 10% down payment with this income amount, then this would become easy. You would be able to easily, comfortably afford this kind of a house. I think that, in general, you want to try to aim for your total fixed expenses, including expected housing expenses, to be less than about 35% of your income. If you can make it less than 35% of your income, you're going to be living on an easy street. Now, what a lot of people do is they say, well, I just want my total housing expense to be less than 35% of my income. That might be okay, except the problem with that is you don't know about these maintenance expenses. Sometimes there's surprises. You don't know about the property tax expense. Sometimes, localities will just randomly decide, hey, we're going to revalue everything, and it's actually going to be, 50% higher in your property tax next year. That happened to me because, during the pandemic, housing values went way up. Everybody was budgeting for one amount of property tax, and then the locality just was like, hey, let's just massively mark up everybody's property taxes. So homeowners insurance, a lot of times, especially in places like California or Florida, where there's unique weather, climate-related risks, those homeowners insurance premiums can sometimes skyrocket with very little warning. So that's kind of why you want to give yourself a lot of room for margin of error in case something surprises you. And in my experience, when you're buying a home, something always surprises you. It might be higher than expected maintenance expenses. It might be higher than expected HOA, homeowners insurance expenses. It might be big one-time expenses. It might be, more ongoing expenses. The reality is it really depends. I think that what happens is when you're buying a nicer house, like you're consuming more house. And so thinking about the decision of should I buy or should I rent is really not the right decision. It's not the right question, rather. It's not the right question to say, should I buy or should I rent? Because what happens is the rental market, what's available is like really nice condos, maybe lower end single family homes. You're not finding usually a $1.2 million house available for rent unless a $1.2 million house is not that good of a house and you're in California, in which case you probably are finding a lot of $1.2 million houses available for rent because $1.2 million in California is not that nice of a house, really, in the grand scheme of things compared to a lot of houses. So I think that the key thing you want to think about here is, if you have, let's say 40% of your income, gross income is going to fixed expenses, including housing. You could do that. You could buy the house. You could do it. The real question, I think, is are you willing to sacrifice in other areas of your finances? Are you willing to sacrifice a later retirement date? Are you willing to sacrifice not taking vacations that are quite as nice? Are you willing to sacrifice, things like going out to eat, maybe not as nice kids' activities? Are you willing to sacrifice sending the kids to, maybe public school when you were wondering, maybe I'd like to send it to private, right? Are you willing to spend less money on Amazon stuff, on clothes, on, any kind of, renovation type projects? Another thing to really think about, one of the benefits of doing a low down payment mortgage, let's say you do a 5% down payment mortgage on a $1 million house, and instead of using all your cash on the down payment, you have a lot of cash available now that you were planning on using on the the down payment on the house. Now that cash can be then used to renovate the house, to fix up things that you hate, swapping out the orange cherry cabinets from the 2000s, swapping out that granite countertop that everybody used in the 2000s for something like, quartzite or something that's a lot more modern and exciting. So a lot of things to think about, right? Also, the outside of your home. Do you want to get a hot tub? Do you want to redo the back deck? Do you want to, landscape anything? So I think people underestimate how many additional costs there are when you buy a home. And so that's why it's really helpful to confidently get into a number where your total fixed expenses are less than 40%. If that's not possible, then you just want to think, okay, I have to do trade-offs in life. What trade-offs am I comfortable with? Am I okay pushing out my home purchase date a few years? Am I okay renting a little bit longer term until we're in a capacity to buy in the neighborhood that we want to buy in? A lot of times you just have to be honest with yourself and say, like, what do I want most? What is the thing that would make me feel most happy as a couple? There's an interesting study from a Harvard professor in a talk that I went to once that she said that the size of the home is not that correlated to happiness. The size does not matter all that much. What does matter, she said, was the niceness on average of the stuff you have in the home. So in other words, the quality of your furniture that you sit your butt down on every day in the living room, you sit down on the couch, you watch something on TV. Does that couch make you really happy? The kitchen that you stand in and do most of your cooking in, is that kitchen a really nice kitchen? Do you enjoy it? The, primary bath, is that a place that makes you feel at peace and calm, right? A lot of times, the bigger the house, the more stuff fills it up and the more work you have to do to keep it maintained and the more it stresses you out. So when in doubt, it's often better to go with a little bit smaller house that you have on the inside really, really nice, with really nice furniture, really nice, aesthetic that you've maybe renovated to your taste. That is sometimes a better choice than going for a monster house that's going to take a lot more of your time, energy, and money to maintain and manage. But ultimately, this is your decision. What is your dream house? What house are you hoping to buy one day? What kind of decision are you trying to figure out between, can I afford to buy this dream house, or do I need to stay where I'm at for a few more years? Whatever decision you're facing, put it in the comments. Would love to see what you think. And then slpwealth.com, we help people figure this kind of decision out all the time for financial planning. And if you're interested in that, check out slpwealth.com. Thank you for watching.